It kind of doesn't matter what your A-level results are like, what university to go to, what degree you get. If you have good manners, people will like you and they will help you.
Kate Reardon has been invited to one of England's top public schools to deliver the prestigious summer speech.
When I talk about good manners, I'm not talking about some weird only eat asparagus with your left hand and don't eat a pear using a fork. All of that stuff is completely irrelevant. When I talk about manners, I'm talking about making the people that you're talking to feel valued and honoured and heard.
Kate knows this world well. She boarded at a school just like this. It's a nostalgic moment. But today is a chance for her to lure new readers from great wealth.
When I was a teenager at boarding school, Tatler was hugely important to me, and really embarrassingly important. And it's a real privilege that we've been allowed to do this, because in as much as I'm sharing anything I might have gathered along the way with the girls, I'm also getting the opportunity to expose my brand to all these potential customers. Okay, but we need to decide, this is a big issue, where does Tatler stand? Are we pro or anti-badger?
Pro-badger?
We're the only magazine that speaks to country people.
Oh, do we have to be anti-badger?
Well, if they give cows TB, then yes.
Well, let's all think on badger.
Yeah.
Tatler has documented the privileged classes for more than 300 years, including their unique eccentricities.
Dogs, how Whippets took over from pugs.
Whippets are the new pugs. You read it here first.
It feels just fine, yeah.
Despite having the richest readership in Britain, the magazine isn't immune to the pressures of publishing.
Newspapers and magazines are struggling because there is the internet. And if you ignore that, you're a moron. A challenging time is a time filled with opportunity. So, of course, we are looking at other ways to expand our brand and to make money.
It may have a small readership, but the magazine has a unique advantage. It appeals to privileged readers from cradle to grave.
Tatler has an incredibly wide demographic in terms of the age of its readers. We sort of tend to get them at 15 and keep them till they're 95. What they all have in common is that they are rich.
Capturing the next generation is a key part of Kate's vision to secure the magazine's future. Tonight, she is hosting a ball for 500 13 to 16-year-olds in a private members club in West London.
It's just generally monitoring the room, being in kind of corners, making sure nothing untoward is happening.
To do this Bystander Ball, to do our first ever teen ball, was for us a very simple no-brainer. A, it can be enormously lucrative. Also, it's a very good way of getting to know our younger readers. If you get them young, they will stay with you.
One of tonight's young guests is Tatler reader 13-year-old Lily Lewis. She lives in Britain's most expensive neighbourhood in West London.
It's hard to believe that my little bouncing baby is going off to the ball. Sort of reliving the old times in a way, and all the excitement and wonder and nervousness.
Come on in.
We did a lot of dancing, a lot of formal dancing. I think much more formal dancing than they do here.
Yes,
we had
Except
dancing.
I can't really put my hands up further than this.
A little
So
restricted.
square.
But we did have dancing lessons, and that was a part of growing up.
Does it make a difference to you that it's Tatler Ball?
Yeah.
Sort of gives reassurance that it's going to be of high quality.
Great point. Yes.
Lily is the granddaughter of a former American ambassador to Britain. She moved to England 7 years ago with her family. Since then, her mother has tried to adopt the traditions of the British upper class.
I think it's almost impossible to understand. In terms of titles, well, not so much that, not so much etiquette, but I think titles, how to address people, how to address envelopes to people, seating, all of the protocol, or shooting gear or hunting gear. Tatler is sort of the Bible, in a sense.
Most of the children here tonight are from private and boarding schools that have been invited by the magazine. A ticket to the neon-themed ball is £60. Cecilia Plumtree is 13 years old and from Heathfield Boarding School for girls.
Well, there's about 22 girls from my year group who are going, so it's really good, and it will be nice to see my old friends. And I think it's exciting for my friends who were always at a girls' school because they have a chance to actually see a boy.
We went to a similar event in the summer. I got lucky there.
You got lucky there? Did you?
Oh, that was a good one. It's the mission.
It's the mission.
I'm gonna do it.
A society ball has always been a rite of passage for all young teenagers.
Yeah, I feel enormously nostalgic watching them all. I used to come to Hurlingham Club teenage discos. I had my first cigarette here, my first snog here, my first love bite here. Happy days.
Society balls have been at the heart of the Tatler social pages for centuries. It's a tradition that exemplifies both the best and the worst of the upper classes at play.
My dad had to sort of come and find me amongst the sea of bodies. He did find me. He never let me forget it.
Oh yes, yes.
I was basically sick at the kind of metre intervals the whole way up and down the King's Road.
So now when she walks up and down the King's Road, she's like, oh, sick there, sick there, sick there, sick there.
Peach schnapps all over the flower beds of the King's Road.
The biggest prize of the ball is to be photographed for the famous Bystander pages. Bystander is the most popular section of the magazine. It features photographs of the most glamorous and up-and-coming characters of the British upper classes.
Well, it's quite exciting to be able to say, oh, that's me, look, a lot of people are actually reading that.
Yeah, and I think that, frankly, from my standpoint as a grown-up, I think it's a great marketing strategy. Tatler can create a whole new audience of young people, and it's not your parents' magazine anymore.
Kate and her team are deciding which lucky few will adorn the Bystander pages. They will be featured in Teen Tatler, a free supplement with the main magazine.
What we don't have is any copy at all. And this is over how many pages? 7 or 9?
7 altogether.
Okay, so we need to get some funnies.
Could we do quotes from the kids? Like, oh, what fun was the photo booth?
Catchy.
Such laughs.
Yes, exactly. What do I call fun? Yeah, no, if it works, I mean, if it looks fun and cool.
See what quotes
yeah. Are we happy doing this?
Can you tell? My worry is that their friends will know who they are.
I mean, we could make it a joke and black out her eyes. You know who you are. I mean, what I don't want to do is upset anyone.
Well, I kind of think it's funny if you actually block her out.
Or we could pixelate. We could do that kind of funny, you know, protecting the identity.
With the children. Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
A few weeks later, the magazine has been published and delivered to eager subscribers in public schools across the country. A photograph in Bystander is a badge of honour.
I know that a lot of English girls' schools, when a new issue comes in, they gather around the beds in dormitories and people are turning the pages of the magazine and somebody goes, oh my God, I know them. Oh my God, I know their brother.
I know him! Oh
No,
God, I actually know him. Oh my God.
You feel like you had a little bit of fame and
and your name's on it. Huh.
I know.
It's like...
It's quite exciting because it gives you the thrill that you're, you know, somewhere to be known.
And everybody kept on coming up to me saying, I saw you in Teen Tatler. It was really cool. And everybody at my new school had the Teen Tatler because they read it every evening, and so they kept on pointing out the photo. And there were girls in the year above who were in it as well.
Morning, Natasha.
Teen Tatler is the magazine's attempt at snaring the young reader. It is one of a growing number of supplements that targets almost every corner of the upper-class market. Everything from the best places to holiday, the finest restaurants, right up to where to find the top plastic surgeons. They want to become the trusted concierge service for the rich and the aspiring middle classes.
The supplements have grown predominantly, it's something our readers want. They want us to be showing them the very best of the best. And they've also grown because we've found there's been a huge appetite from our advertisers and they want to spend more money with us. And we are just delighted about that and we can help them.
The magazine's most popular supplement hits upon a real upper-class anxiety. Which private school to send your child to? The public school is one of the most ancient and important markers of class distinction.
So if we're in a features meeting, quite often, if someone is pitching someone as a potential interview, there is this thing which, one of us will say, they went to such and such a school. It is a social barometer. Oh, he's an OE, he's an old Etonian, so, we should interview him. It doesn't mean if you didn't go to Eton that you're, any less valid necessarily in life, but for Tatler possibly, for Tatler readers, yeah.
Tatler knows a thing or two about prep and private schools. More than 90% of the magazine's staff attended one.
I'm unashamedly jolly hockey-sticks about my school. Yeah, I loved it. It's called Wickham Abbey, it's in Buckinghamshire, and supposedly we were nicknamed the Virgin Megastore because we never met any boys, none of us ever had sex, none of us actually even really knew what sex was, I think, until we left school. As schools go, you get kind of naughty schools where pupils are a bit cooler and they take drugs and they drink and they smoke. We didn't do any of that.
Godolphin, it's a really academic school, really hard-working academic school, but the girls are quite kind of fun. And our skirts were very short, our tights were very laddered, our DM boots were very DM booty, and our cardigans all had sort of holes in them, and we were always smoking and had loads of black eye makeup and earrings and sort of hair messy and stuff like that.
Here we go. So from the beginning.
Sure on this shining night of star-made shadows, shining night of star-made shadows, bright.
Every year, a team of researchers with extensive knowledge of the public schooling system travel around the country to see who is worthy of making the guide.
There are lots of really good schools in the country that aren't in the Tatler Guide, and heads write to us and say, our results are just as good as that school, our facilities are better than that school, and yet you've got that school in and you haven't got us in. But actually there's so much more to a school than A-level results.
Hello, morning, I'm here from Tatler, I'm Alice.
There's so much pressure on the parents to get it right. What they want to know is what the dorms are like. They want to know the behind-the-scenes stuff, which we try and give them.
Today, Alice Rose has come to King's College School in Wimbledon, where it costs £19,000 a year to send your child.
When I was here before, you had a great vision for an atrium. Is that happening?
No, it's not. No, that was a lovely
4
vision.
years' time.
Like many visions, it doesn't quite happen. But on the other hand, we have gained £10 million music school designed by Hopkins, who did Glyndebourne Opera House. And there only are two independent schools guide. The Good Schools Guide, which is a huge book on my shelf there like that, and the Tatler Guide, which is much more, is more fizzy and fun and spirited, but actually quite accurate. So it matters to us how we're perceived everywhere.
Thank you very much.
Keen for the magazine's seal of approval, the school offer up their finest to Alice, head boy and head girl. But what makes a school a Tatler school?
Wow, this is so smart.
Quite newly refurbished.
I love the light in here. It'd be hard to go to sleep in here.
Yeah, exactly.
There are lots of really good schools in the country that aren't in the Tatler Guide, and yes, Eton's always going to be in the guide, Harrow, Winchester, Marlborough, but it's very hard to define what makes a Tatler school.
Ooh. Oh no, he's there. Oh.
But we look at all kinds of things, like, is there a school dog? What does it smell like? What's the drive like? What's the reception like? I quite like schools which are a bit scruffy and they haven't got the latest everything. I think if schools are really shiny, I don't know, it's not the real world, is it?
Is it hockey where the coach is really ferocious and has people practicing on a Saturday, even if they're in the B team or the C team?
Exactly. Everyone has to.
Sometimes you get very pushy marketing people who usher you around. I went to a really big boys' boarding school and she wouldn't show me a boarding house. And it's a boarding school, of course I want to see a boarding house. So I kept saying, please, can we see a boarding house? And eventually we did see one and, you know, it was fine. I mean, boarding houses smell of boys. They're all a bit grim. So I don't know why, but so that was it's always quite revealing if they hold back on showing you stuff.
A chemistry lab.
Putting 2 children through the public school system can cost £1.5 million. But many believe it is an investment worth making.
I read a really interesting statistic. So 7% of children go to independent schools, but I think 35% of MPs were at independent schools, 36% of Olympic medal winners, 70% of judges were at independent schools, which is not a great thing. But you know, these are the people who shape the world for better or for worse.
The guide's photographer, Hugo Bernand, is on his way to Lambrook Prep School in Berkshire. Hugo is Tatler's veteran photographer, and he knows this world well. He attended Harrow School for boys.
What we're doing today is we're taking photographs which are going to be published full page in the magazine. We do 6 schools, and they're to be very Tatlerish in that they're not photographs that you would find in a school prospectus. Last year, Undle was great. They have a good DT department. We did a photograph of them building a car, but it was very much in the spirit of the film Grease and Grease Lightning. And it was really good fun, actually, and the children really went for it.
Lambrook is a day and boarding school for 3 to 13-year-olds. Boarding your child here costs £20,000 a year.
Our grounds are probably, one of our best selling points as a school. Golf, 9-hole course. Yeah, we had a parents and sons game last night. It's fantastic. See, that's another one you could explore. Obviously, we can do a cricket one if you like. We can do a cricket tee. Yeah. We can have them sitting by the pavilion.
Okay, we've never in 10, 12 years done a match tee. So I actually really like that idea.
Well, funnily enough, parents from other schools visit us especially because of our match tees.
Okay, is the catering organised? They're ready. Walnut cakes,
sponge,
Victoria sponge.
We've got finger sandwiches.
We are doing tea.
Yes, you are magicians. The catering department have gone so high. Oh, you think they're... I think they're there. I think they're there. Xavier, you are going to be over here with your cricket bat. And have you got a ball? I'm really bad at this, so it probably won't work, but I want you to chuck the ball to me. Yeah, I'm really bad. But I think there's a bit of this going on. Okay, oh, nearly hit you in the face. Bad. Sorry. Right, okay, twins, both eyes to the camera, stick that knife in. Whoa, yeah, to me, eyes to me, eyes to me, offer me the cake. Trying together, offer me the cake. Yeah, fantastic, guys. More, I want it closer. Okay, would one of you like to eat that cake? Yeah.
What are you guys missing at the moment?
French and maths.
I'm missing science.
And English.
And geography.
Got quite a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's quite good, this modelling lot.
Yeah, but if it was yesterday, it'd be better because we had double Latin.
And Anna, you looking straight into the donkey. Yeah, talk to him, talk to the donkey, talk to the donkey. Yeah.
The public schools guide has become particularly popular amongst the aspiring middle classes and wealthy internationals looking to infiltrate British upper-class life.
For me, the starting point was the school guide. I think when you're a foreigner, it's very, very easy to get completely lost in the English schooling system. If you take just one example, sports, drama, art, we don't have that in France. Boarding schools in France are viewed as more punishment than anything else, which is completely the opposite in the UK. In a certain way, The schooling system is a good way to get into the English society. And what I found now very, very funny is the fact that my kids speak obviously much better English than I do, and they don't have any accent. And this is funny because they start making jokes about my accent, and I need to live with it.
We've got a sort of first-person diary of an it girl.
Yeah.
We've got a first-person diary of a Deb's delight.
These days, the magazine has to appeal to both the lord on his country estate
Who is this?
and the growing number of nouveau riche.
So when you look at an edition of Tatler now, it looks very different to what an edition of Tatler looked like in the 70s. In the 70s, it was actually still very establishment British, and it was all about dukes and earls and a kind of old British society. And now if you look through the pages, it still has that, clearly. But it also has a lot of new money, and it has a lot of Russian oligarchs, and it has Euro trash living in London, and it has Indians, and it has Chinese, and it kind of reflects the cosmopolitan way that Britain is.
Seeking to capitalise on the influx of rich foreigners looking to buy a slice of British upper-class life, the magazine has decided to create a new supplement, a guide to the world's most expensive jewellery and watches.
We are completely unapologetic about the wealth of our readers. We photograph wildly expensive jewellery, and our readers have been known to walk into shops on Bond Street, literally carrying the magazine, saying, that please, I can have those earrings, and they will be £50,000, £100,000.
All right, call me when you use your car, okay?
Fab. It's Show Me. I know where that one's going.
The new luxury accessories supplement will be overseen by Alice Holland.
Do you want to take a picture and then just move it in slightly so it's not hanging on the edge of the table? It'd be great.
Today, she is receiving some of the world's rarest and most expensive watches, and each one of them comes with its own security guard.
Watches and jewellery, unlike women's wear, there aren't any samples. You know, if you're making a very expensive handmade watch, you can't possibly make a sample of it. It is the actual watch. So I'm very aware that we're borrowing things that people are then going to buy and often have already bought. So they take great care, and I feel much more comfortable having a guard around who knows how to handle it.
If you have the richest reader of anybody in the whole world, if you are featuring watches and jewellery worth millions of pounds, which is so far removed from most of our experience, it is our absolute duty to be nothing but enthusiastic and grateful and positive, and in a sense be the most fun girl at the party, not the rich cow you want to slap.
Lovely. Oh, look at that. Oh, that's lovely, Dexter. Look at you.
But this is no ordinary photo shoot.
That is just, I mean...
It's brilliant, isn't it?
It's all themed around the hare and the tortoise. So we've got a giant tortoise and 4 hares on set and a very small snail.
Useless.
We want to show the products and all the beautiful watches, but we want to keep it engaging over 6 pages and keep people's interest, which is often quite difficult. What happened? What's happened? I've never seen so much wee.
They don't go too often.
They can't do that more than once a day. That's obscene.
Once or twice a week.
Okay.
Because they naturally, where they come from is desert areas, so they hang. That's it.
Thanks, Carter. You're a real babe.
There are a huge number of animals in Tatler because they're funny, and English people love animals. And some of them, maybe just 1 or 2, didn't have very functional relationships with their parents, and so find it easier to express love to an animal than another human being.
Part of the guide will be to assist its new readers on how to wear the expensive jewellery.
Diamonds in the daytime, sort of not allowed. It's a bit gauche. In fact, I think apart from hair clips, if you're fabulous enough to have jewellery that goes in your hair, you can wear it any time. Signet rings should have family crests on and not your initials. Push presents, we recommend you are very clear about what you want. Apparently childbirth is unpleasant and you should get some compensation. And if you have a family engagement ring and hate it, you're allowed to have it reset, but you can't get rid of the main stone.
Advertising makes Tatler more money than the sales of the magazine, and because it has the richest readership in Britain, luxury brands clamber to be in its pages. Cartier is popular with wealthy foreigners and keen to be a big presence in the new supplement, especially because the launch is perfectly timed for summer when the international super rich descend on London.
Should we look at upgrading our engagement rings?
Yes. Oh, wow.
It's wonderful, it's wonderful, it's wonderful. Good luck, my baby, it's wonderful, it's wonderful, it's wonderful. I dream of you.
We have a very rich history with Cartier. We feature their events, we attend their functions, their polo. They've got a long relationship with Hollywood and with royalty, all of which is Tatler territory. Ah, Mr. Bombardier.
Cartier has a long relationship with the magazine, and Alice and Emma regularly meet the bosses Arnaud Bombardier and Laurent Fenouil. They want Cartier to be one of their main sponsors for the new supplement.
We've called this article Show Me the Money. Why is Bond Street, and does it attract all foreign visitors from all over the world? When they come, what they're going to buy? Russian visitors, now the Chinese, with Nigeria and Turkey are becoming very important.
It is a very good idea, and Bond Street is quite special. I mean, it's unique. I've been all over the world. It's very, very small, very tiny, and everybody's there. Everybody's there. Speaking about the British society, there's the old and the new money, and it's very difficult to mix them. But as I always say, it's better to have new money than no money. So I'm very respectful to some new money people because they're interesting people, because they've made it. The only thing is, at times, they're a bit rude and they're with 3 phones at the same time, or they're smoking at table, or, you know. It's difficult to get into that circle, and you need to work at it. You need to be a bit witty, to be a bit funny. You have to like the countryside. You have to like horses. You have to like gardens. You have to like trees. You have to eventually play polo. And then you can be accepted, especially if you're a foreigner.
And then I'll see you next week.
Yes, see you next week in Paris. Okay?
Thank you so much.
The idea of a Tatler watches and jewellery guide is a hit with Cartier. Alice and Emma agreed a full-page advertisement, access to many of their pieces to be photographed, and a full-page profile of Mr. Bombardier himself.
They booked on the spot and they wanted to take part in all of your editorial. So, without a doubt, 100% success.
The supplement will be launched with the July issue, which is a nostalgic look back at the 1980s.
Welcome to the 80s. No!
This is the Saint Laurent.
No. My God, it's like the dream.
Isn't that the best thing you've ever seen?
The cover story for July is the return of the 80s Sloane. And it's a story that is based, it's actually come from fashion. So a lot of the stuff, a lot of the very, very coolest designers this season have done very, very kind of 80s clothes, but specifically the sort of clothes that an 80s Sloane would wear to a ball. Lots of sort of weird taffeta dresses, but really, really fun.
And then we've got this, which was your favourite, the Lanvin. So we could do a nice...
It's a perfect party dress, isn't it?
Isn't it? Absolutely
So
beautiful.
from behind, kind of
Exactly.
kicking her heels up,
yeah, just
laughing, lots of energy and joy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kate is looking back through the 80s archive, a time when posh became cool.
In that, Tatler has always covered the sort of Sloane Ranger life. It certainly very much came into its own in the 80s. You know, there was a lot of money running around, people were interested in having a good time, and Tatler was covering that world particularly well. I mean, Madonna's on the cover of this issue. This is 1986, she was the coolest person in the world. This is the kind of Proustian feeling that we want people to get when they look at our issue on the sort of the 80s in Tatler. It just reminds me so much of what I wanted to be like at that time. You know, all these girls in these fantastic sort of strapless taffeta ball gowns and all these sort of slightly spotty youths, but, you know, I would have been in love with almost every single one of them. Excellent.
The biggest selling book in 1982 was the Sloane Ranger Handbook. It was a manual for how to live like the upper classes, and it gripped the public's imagination.
Diana brought a sort of searchlight onto her world. You know, what to wear, where to live, where to school your children, how to think about the world. You know, the honed-in battle attitude. You lose a limb. However, the wrong choice of a tweed, the wrong blue on a Tuesday afternoon, that is something terrible. That is epically terrible. You know, you cry about a dog, you don't cry about members of your family.
It's a hard day at the office, you know.
I've had such a brainwave.
Have you? That's exciting.
Deputy editor Gavandra Hodge has commissioned Alice Cockerell to go back in time and live by the rules of an 80s posh girl.
You get rid of your mobile phone, you get rid of your computer, and when you were talking to a mum, did she say basically people were out every night in the 80s, weren't they?
Yeah.
They went out every single
lunch
night.
and stuff.
When you go for dinner with a man, he has to pay, so you have to warn them that they're going to be paid.
And also sex, so...
Yes, sex. So are
that's
you
the
gonna
other
be...
thing I was going to talk about with my dating plan.
Yeah, are you allowed to have sex with him, or are you meant to
Exactly,
have sex
do
with
I
him?
feel that I need to put out after going on all these dates?
Well, I think
kind
we
of already
wouldn't
have,
ask you to have sex for Tatler. I think that's your own affair. But maybe you could think about it and see.
So I have to live the 80s life, and so not have a mobile phone, have a hair perm, wear like shoulder pads and stuff. Like, you know, I'm only allowed to go to parties or things that I'm invited to, but no one's gonna invite me. No one's gonna call. I haven't got a landline. No one will call it, and I'm not allowed to contact anyone by Facebook.
First stop for Alice is to get her hair styled to look like a true Sloane.
How are you? Okay.
Thanks.
Neville Tucker was the hairdresser of choice to the young, posh and famous in the 1980s.
Can I ask you some questions actually about
Please,
80s?
go on.
Do you think I could borrow a bit of paper from reception? I left my notepad behind. Typically disorganised fashion. I'll borrow a pen as well. And maybe something to lean on?
What about Tatler magazine?
Yeah, perfect. That's what it's best for.
Although Alice is now a freelance journalist, she was once a permanent fixture at the magazine.
So I was the associate editor, and I love working Tatler. It slightly ended in tears because I was sent to do an article about Sandhurst, and I ran away. I got back to the office, and the Ministry of Defence were really cross. So so we decided to go separate ways, which was sad because I loved Tatler. You know, I loved working here. I love everyone here. Do you think people were paid more or less attention to their hair? Was it more of a feature in the 80s?
I think it was the start of people going back to having dressed hair as opposed to just, you know, cut and blow dry.
So breast hair or chest hair?
Breast hair.
The point of the magazine is that you have to appeal to a very wide range of ages. You need to feel like you've had a lot of different canapés in your magazine. So you need to have a range of voices, and she's a young, fresh voice. And she's funny, and she's spry, and she understands the Tatler world, so she can be funny about it.
And men, what did trendy men had wham hairstyles?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. You sort of forget these things, then all of a sudden you start remembering. Yeah. Oh my God, yeah, you're right.
For a while, there was a real thing of making Alice do absurd things, because I was just known to be the most incompetent person in the office. So I was sent I had to be a Norland nanny, and I had to go learn to hunt, shoot and fish, and I can't even hit a ball. It was just awful. I nearly fell off my horse. Then side saddle racing. Yeah, game girl, possibly. Game hopeless girl, might be the way to describe it.
It's great.
Yeah, I love it.
It's all coming back to me now.
Alice is going to a dinner party tonight and has prepared a classic 1980s hors d'oeuvre.
Actually, my pineapple, my hedgehog is kind of stood up. That looks pretty professional, right?
The upper classes like nothing more than to celebrate their fading institutions. Sophia Money Coates has been commissioned to write a piece about the dying tradition of the family nanny.
Nannies are obsessed with potty training, and that's obviously one of their big jobs, as it were. And there was a nanny, apparently, who completely terrified. I think she had a little boy, a 2-year-old charge, and if he wouldn't go on the potty, she would then push her finger up his bottom and check that there was something there. And if there was, then tell him off, basically, for holding back on her. Just like, God. The thing about Tatler is it's supposed to be an insider glimpse to a very specific world. With these nannies, a lot of them have worked for very grand families, prince and princesses' children. It's a kind of bygone thing, because it is a dying thing, sadly.
Harry's a lovely bloke. I thought he'd go setting up.
Right, what happened with this?
Oh.
Yeah,
Sophia has some useful connections to help get her started. She is from a private banking family, and her father is a lord. Her stepmother, Lady Shauna Latimer, grew up with a nanny until she was 15 years old.
I mean, Nanny Smith was a rarity even in her day, because there were a lot of not nearly such lovely, brilliant nannies.
But I just think these old, 80-plus characters are so amazing and have the most amazing stories. And they so devoted themselves, to like you and to all these families. They never, in most cases, didn't have children of their own. And
I mean, my mother in many ways was a fantastic woman, but she was very beautiful and very dramatic and very, legend in her lifetime. But she wasn't a mother. She wasn't the slightest bit interested in any of her children, never has been. She's really only interested in herself. So yeah, anything good that I learned from Nanny. She was the one who taught me, everything, how you laid a table and basic cooking and making your bed and being a nice person and caring about other people, thinking about other people.
Nanny Smith retired from her last family when she was 69.
Yay! Here we are.
She's now 83 years old and lives in Somerset.
Hello. Yes. Hello.
So I was 19 when I took my first baby. The loneliness, I think, was one of the things that caught me as a surprise. And you're on your own with the children quite a lot, really. You're the one that's always there, and the mothers are out doing different things and having a social life. But you're the one that's always there, but you always have to stand that little bit back, really, and make the children see that the parents are the most important people in their lives. I always felt sad that they missed the first smiles and the first walking, and you try to encourage the child to walk when the mother's there, and forget that it walked 2 days earlier when you were there. You sort of try and give them that sort of pleasure.
Was there a big nanny network, Nanny? Did you know lots of others from other kind of grand families? Was there? And would nannies, therefore, from a kind of ducal family be more snotty, maybe, than?
Well, they might think they were. You find that as the years go by, you've got quite a position in the house. You perhaps don't realise it when you're working, but afterwards, when you go back, you've got this sort of respect for you. And it wasn't as though they bought you for your services. But it was like that with my father when he was a chauffeur. They valued what he did because they didn't want to do it themselves, And they were, he was Smith, and he'd do anything for the family, and they'd do anything for him, really. And they were friends of his all his life. Am I looking at you? Or?
Looking at me.
I have to care for my smiles because my rabbit teeth show.
This is Nanny Smith here, with Timothy, who was her first. I think she was with him, 8 years. So that's Shauna's mum, Libba. Well, she was with her for the longest, so 14 and a half years.
My first job, the first baby I had to leave, he was 16 months and the older boy was 4. And I was just heartbroken. But I went straight into the next job each time, really. and you sort of get over it. But the worst one was leaving Shauna, because 14 and a half years is a long time to be with one family.
How much did you miss her when she...
Incredibly. I mean, you know, imagine your mother just coming in one day and saying, by the way, darling, I'm leaving tomorrow. I mean, I suppose that's what happens when parents split up, but mostly you spend alternate weekends with the one that's left.
She was very cross because she thought I would be, as she said, transmogrified and live in the, you know, in the cottage on the estate or bottom of the drive or whatever. And she didn't believe I could ever go, and she got quite cross. But she used to come to my flat, and she used to come down and dye her hair sometimes in my sink, and you know.
I think I was angry with her for leaving, is what I really think now as an adult looking back on it. I was a child and I probably didn't know what I was feeling, but I think I felt cross with her for leaving, which was monstrous, but children are very stupid things, really.
Back on the road.
Be on your way, mate. I hope you have a good journey anyway.
Thank you very much.
Don't make too much
So lovely to see you. Mwah.
What is a shame is that people today can misunderstand the relationship with staff.
I love full family.
Yes, of course.
Okay.
They were paid for what they did, but they were also loved and valued for what they did, and remain part of the family forever.
Sophia's piece will be a 6-page feature titled My Heart Belongs to Nanny.
All of them gave me little tips, nannying tips. So Nanny Liebes, her tip is read them Beatrix Potter before they go to sleep because it lulls them into a sleep pattern. Nanny von Preussen, her tip was, swaddle all newborns, like that, so they're all wrapped up. And then Nanny Smith, bless her, her tip is, and it just so goes with this picture because she just looks so sweet, is just love them. So her tip is just love them. And that's the end, that's the last picture.
For the last 2 weeks, Alice Cockerell has been attempting to live like an 80s Sloane.
Nearly.
Today, she'll be trying to roller skate with her sister Rachel.
That would actually be quite a good flirting tactic. Just pretend you couldn't stop when you're going downhill and then have to hug on something sorry, I couldn't stop myself.
No one really told me about how depressing it is to wait at home by the phone, feel like you can't go out because you're waiting for someone to ring and stuff. So I found it really hard. I had to get my flatmate to ring me and play out the answering machine messages all the time and stuff. I couldn't really relax. And if you get separated from people on a night out, you just have to go home and wait for them to call you.
Morning, Leander. Fine.
Alice's final copy of the article has been submitted to editor Kate and her deputy Gavandra. For her research, she's been to an 80s dinner party, attempted a daily aerobics routine, and attended the classic country Sloane pursuit of point-to-point horse racing. But the article isn't quite what they had in mind.
Oh, here it is. I'm not sure there's any more she can bring to us.
No.
She just hasn't got that extra level of kind of reference to make it right. And with stunt type pieces, they need to be so clever, so brilliant, so funny, so intelligent. They need to work 110%. And
Is this, I don't even think, well, there's no point picking this over.
No.
I think we let it go.
When the whole 80s issue comes out, we can put it online and we can use the pictures, so then the whole thing isn't completely wasted. Yeah.
It's probably largely our mistake because I think actually she's too young to really understand. Perhaps it would have been clever of us to commission somebody, of my generation or a little bit older even, to go back to their heyday. That would have been quite amusing. So we are going to let this one go and then we're going to come up with something else.
It's down to Gavandra to let Alice know her piece has been dropped.
This is halfway through the magazine cycle. It means we have to turn something else around quite quickly, but I think it's better to do that. You know the things that are going to make you feel disappointed, and if you can tell that it's going to make you feel disappointed, it's best to change it, not run it, do something else.
Gavandra will now have to write a piece herself to replace the dropped article. But she's used to turning around stories at the last minute, having previously worked as a journalist at the Evening Standard and independent newspapers. She lives in South London with her husband Mike and their 2 children.
Wow, that's pretty cool. That's Dad, and that's me, and that's my mum.
Although she went to a public school, her parents are from a working class background.
My parents in the 60s came to London, my dad as a hairdresser and my mum as a model. That was a time where class barriers were coming down, so if you were kind of talented and pretty and kind of hip enough, you could meet all sorts of people, and it was the first time that that kind of happened, that change happened. He would have been in Tatler in the 60s, which was when he was doing the hair at the Queen Charlotte's Ball, which is the big dead ball that was still happening. And he ended up eloping with Jane Harries, who was 16 and who was the Deb of the Year at that time. And they ran away together and they went to Portugal and they got married, and it was a massive story, and it was kind of newspapers chasing them around. And yes, he kind of lived life in quite an extreme way, but he was, you know, wonderful and fun, and we got on incredibly well, and I spoke to him most days. He died 4 years ago, really, really suddenly, and the night before he'd been taking ecstasy and cocaine and had loads of his mates around, and they were all listening to music and partying, and he went to sleep and he didn't wake up. And I don't think he ever thought he'd lived that long anyway, and he hated being ill, and he would never have wanted to not be able to walk down the King's Road and look at girls in short skirts. So I think if he could have chosen a way to go, that would have been it.
Gavandra spent much of her childhood in the 1980s in and around the King's Road in West London, near her father's hair salon. So she's perfectly suited to write a feature to replace the dropped Sloane piece.
So here, what is now Toast, for sort of 30, 40 years was Poochie Pizza, which was sort of like a training ground for posh young girls, and you'd go there and you'd dance on tables and you'd snog people. And
Did you work there?
I hope it's the right house. I nearly got it wrong.
She's travelled to Chelsea to meet Kate Brain, 80s it girl and model for Vivienne Westwood.
And can you tell me the story of your beast?
Yes, he came from Paris, from the Pousse market. Have you seen my polar bear?
Oh my goodness.
He's called bipolar.
Yeah.
And he doesn't bite.
For you, so I can stroke him.
You can. Oh, this is my buck. He sings. Do you know these reindeer? They sing.
Never hear me complain, 'cause I got friends in low places where the whiskey drowns and the beer chases on social grace. Think I'll flip on down to New York.
Anyway. Yeah, so going back to the 80s, you know, I would say the King's Road was very much the kind of centre of, you know, the kind of, I suppose, chic punk side of it all. And you had that fantastic pharmacy where everybody went to get their drugs.
The Chelsea drugstore.
Exactly.
Yes.
A big mix musically. This is the most important thing. The fashion was, you know, very much affected by, you know, let's face it, there was like Vivienne Westwood, Malcolm McLaren, you had the Clash. One of my great friends in Tokyo was going out with Mick Jones.
Wow.
So I used to hang out with the Clash a bit in London. That was amazing.
Yeah.
You know, the other side of it was the kind of Lady Di and the big pan collars, and you had the headbands and flash dance, and suddenly the leotard became something to wear outside of the dance studio. Interesting mix.
Yeah. And do you call yourself more Sloane or more punk, or were you kind of where they met?
I hope I'm neither. I mean, I'd love to have been a punk, but I just wasn't gonna. I haven't got the right hair for it, really.
Yeah,
really.
well, it's quite hard to get those Mohicans, isn't it? Yeah.
I like the makeup, but.
Well, it's so nice to meet you. Thank you so much. The great thing about people from the upper classes is they don't care what people think of them, so they are willing to be wild, anarchic, do crazy stuff, have parties, and not really care what people think of them, because that's just part of their sort of DNA, and that's why they're fascinating to observe and talk to and write about, and that's why they have lives that are more colourful than, say, middle class people who are more concerned with appearance and fitting in and being, you know, slotting into their apportioned roles.
The final ingredient of the July issue is the cover shoot, where they have to find the perfect 80s look. For a posh girl, of course.
Ah, this is better.
Any cover is really our #1 ad for the magazine, but it's got to sum up everything that we're hoping to convey. So it's got to be a girl dressed and styled in a way that is reminiscent of the 80s, but it does have to feel contemporary and current, but not be too standoffish. It can't be too snotty. There's got to be something about it that seems very approachable.
That's nice. Was that the one we liked?
I think the ones we had earlier.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
I like that one.
The designers have mocked up 3 potential covers for the July issue.
And in terms of the cover, I mean, to be perfectly honest, I don't think I've ever been happier. I mean, I would be so happy with every single one of these. I think my favourite ultimately is going to be that one. But I love this. I love the shape of that. I mean, it couldn't tell the story better. You know, I've thrown my toys out of the pram so often saying, give me a bloody smile. You know, she's wearing an expensive outfit, she's on the cover of Tatler, for goodness sake, she should be happy. So I get the happiest, most perfect, glossy, glamorous, expensive picture. And then I go, oh, but that's really pretty. And you think about why people buy magazines, you know, as opposed to reading them on their iPads. And a lot of it is they want to leave them on their coffee table because they look glossy and beautiful. And we might send them, we have an amazing research department. And we can send both covers out and they can survey, 250 people who usually buy Tatler and say, which do you prefer? You know, we don't always do what we're told, but it adds information.
Whilst Kate waits for the results of the cover survey, Bond Street's top jewellers have been invited to the launch party of the magazine's Watches and Jewellery Guide. Now the magazine is given 5,000 copies of the supplement to the top London hotels, perfectly timed for the summer influx of super-rich visitors to the capital.
It's Ramadan, so the Middle Eastern are, in town before going back to Ramadan. The Chinese are coming to visit, with the children in school. So it's really the most international city in the world. And that's the reason why everybody loves shopping in London.
Thank you all so much. This wouldn't be possible if you didn't all design and make and sell such beautiful jewellery. Our part in the circle is just to show it off to all our readers who thankfully have fabulous taste and really enjoy it. So thank you all very much. Lastly, Emma and I would like to tell you that the guide is now going to be annual. So our double act roadshow will be out again and we can't wait to tell you about 2015. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I mean, jewelry is doing well because it's intemporel. I mean, it's something that as long as there would be women in the world, and thank God, then there are a lot of beautiful women, and that they will, and the men will fall in love. I think there will be a nice, nice business for all of us. Thank God.
The focus group for the July cover was split 50-50, so the decision went back to Kate and her team. The issue has been out a week, and Kate already has news about the initial sales.
Okay, just wanted to tell you that I don't know if you all know that every Friday I get an email of doom from the circulation department, and it's sent to all the editors and all the publishers, and it shows us not only how many copies we've sold or the projection for that week, but also how many copies all the other magazines have sold and how far up and down you are year on year. And it's excruciating because everybody else always does really well and sometimes we don't always. Anyway, this week we have so knocked it out of the park and we are the best in the building. Thank you all so much for working so hard. One of the great things about this issue is that you've got this lovely, kind of unequivocal, beautiful cover. And then we also have the incredibly hefty watch and jewellery supplement. We will continue to do supplements on pretty much anything there is a market for. Not only do we know that the readers like them because they're getting 2 magazines for the price of 1, but they are very, very lucrative for us. You know, this is basically double the advertising.
The next Tatler supplement will be a guide to luxury yachts. And almost anything is possible when you have the richest readership in Britain.
I mean, if there is a sudden trend for hovercrafts, there will be a Tatler hovercraft supplement within weeks.